So I'm going to do something a little tiny bit different this week. I'm going to do my News at Kate video and my slippers on the table video, like back to back as one thing. And if you're not sure what slippers on the table is, stick around and you'll find out in a minute. But first of all, what I wanted to talk about for my News at Kate this week. I've just been on Sunday Morning Live talking about this case of the woman who was sentenced to 28 months in prison for procuring an abortion past the legal limit during lockdown. And inevitably it descended into this like picking through like what we know about the court case and what information she had and all this kind of stuff, which I think is like super misleading, because the question of was an abortion the right choice for this woman in these circumstances, like actually it clearly wasn't, is the short answer. Even she agrees that actually the question at hand is this the sort of matter that should be dealt with through government legislation, or should we do what I'm advocating, which is to decriminalise abortion and then say that women can talk to their doctor and medical professionals and, of course, whoever else they trust in their lives to help them, whether that's a partner or family members, friends, priests, rabbis, imams, whoever it is that you're comfortable talking to, counsellors, therapists, the woman from the hairdressers, whoever it is that you feel you're able to have that conversation with, that's who you should be involving in that conversation. And then we have some medical guidelines in place. We could equally ask questions about whether it's ethical to encourage someone to have chemotherapy if the chances of it doing them any good are quite low. But that's a conversation that should happen with them and their medical practitioners and the people around them. It's a difficult conversation. And in fact, if we had lived in a world where abortion was decriminalised, this woman could have gone to her doctor and explained the full circumstances of what was going on and would probably have been given the support to make a choice that worked better for her. But instead, we put in these rules and regulations so that now it's down to Rishi Sunak, technically, what people are and aren't allowed to do with their uteruses. And inevitably, desperate women end up doing the last thing we want anyone to do, which is lying to their doctor about what's going on. But I have to say, I've had a termination myself, and if the rules and regulations around what circumstances I would have been able to get one in were different, I would have lied to my doctor. If they'd have said only if you've been attacked, I would have been straight down the doctor's going, attacked, hugely attacked, because women know what they want to do with their bodies. And yeah, of course. And then women who want a termination in the UK and are past 24 weeks, which is the current limit, about 100 of them each year go elsewhere, usually to the Netherlands, to access a termination after that limit. And of course, in an ideal world, a post 24-week termination, it's not anybody's sort of bucket list, is it? But when you look at the details, what you'll find is women who were so young at the time of the abuse that they didn't realise that they even could get pregnant because they weren't even having periods when, their dad was abusing them. And I don't know what else you would say to a raped, abused 11-year-old whose life is now in danger because she's 25 weeks pregnant. But I tell you what, I'd get her on a plane to the Netherlands pronto and get her the health care that she needs. And it seems obvious to me that that decision should be made between a woman and the people around her that she wants support from and the medical profession. And it's not the most radical policy, it's what they've got in Canada right now. That strange liberal commune that is Canada. So it's totally a reasonable thing to do. And it would mean getting rid of the part of the Offences Against the Person Act, which covers abortion. And we've dealt with problems with that act before. That's the act which 160 years ago criminalised homosexuality, and we threw that bit out, so let's throw the next bit out. It turns out a lot of nonsense in the Offences Against the Person Act. And we had quite a good debate on it, I thought, this morning, aside from the usual sort of repetitive arguments that we hear on these things. But I thought that was quite good. I was interested, we didn't get to talk about it, but I also am curious about the sort of backlash we've heard about the woman who's 29 and got promoted to the House of Lords in Boris Johnson's honours list. And I've been hearing a lot of people arguing about whether this is like a gendered issue or not? And the answer is like, firstly, of course it is. A 29-year-old guy, there'd be much less fuss about it. But actually also the appointment itself is hugely about gendered issues, about the fact that the Tories and indeed the establishment in general don't seem to pay any attention to or respect any women unless they are young and conventionally attractive. It's almost like they can't tell we're in the room unless we're giving them a boner. And that's probably where I would leave the news at Kate for this week. Now, what I'm going to do now, though, is the next bit of my video. We're just going to run it all as one. So those people who sponsor my videos online, and, spoiler alert, this could be you, not only get access to my News at Kate videos, and I say important things about human rights and stuff like that, but they also get access to my behind the scenes videos where I lean back and the backdrop disappears and I put my beslippered feet on the table, and I haven't even got my slippers on, so foot fetishes, knock yourselves out. And I'll tell you a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes. And if you'd like these regular gossipy updates, then they can be yours for as little as $1 a month by sponsoring me on Patreon in a link that you probably can see or can't see. If you are thinking that I looked a bit fried on the telly this morning, there is a very good reason for that. I had a gig last night in Chorley, which for Southerners and international people is about halfway between Preston and Manchester. And, you know, I had planned to get the train up, stay over and get the train back today. But then when I spoke to Sunday Morning Live, they wanted me in the BBC at 9:30 in London. And I could have done it down the line on Zoom, but these debate shows, that it's just so difficult to do well on them to get your point across when you're not in the studio, because they just won't leave, you know, they won't leave the Zoom running in the background. So you'll be going, no, that's not true. And you just won't get anything across. It's much harder. So I really wanted to be in the studio, and they really wanted me in the studio as well. So they looked into like whether they could get me a train or a bus or a plane or a something. And the answer was, we just can't find anything. And I was like, no, I really want to do it. So I really want to do it in the studio as well. So I hired a car from Turo, and like already, like I'm not the most confident driver, and I find it tiring, and I really have to focus. And I don't like driving to and from. I don't drive very often. And then in the morning, right before I was about to leave, the car cancelled. And then I was like, I can't even get to Chorley for my gig at this rate. And I needed to hire a new car. But almost all of the cars, like, you have to give them 3 or 6 hours notice. You know, you can't hire them on 10 minutes notice, because they're people's cars that they're lending out. To make some money, and, you know, also for environmental reasons, much better to borrow a car than to buy a whole new one and leave it sitting around. So I was frantically trying to find, so I'm ringing their customer support, which leaves a great deal to be desired. But eventually I did manage to get through to somebody who was at least trying to help, and I explained the situation, like, and I need to leave in the next hour. And this brilliant woman I spoke to, Sky at Turo, thank you, she said, right, what we're going to do is we're just going to basically let you hire a more expensive car, and like we'll cover the difference, because it's like by this stage I'd booked 3 different cars and they'd all cancelled on me, because as soon as the first one went, I booked another one, and that didn't, you know, that, like, it booked and then it cancelled, it booked and then it cancelled. And I was just like, so she fixed the system somehow so that they released some extra money onto my account. So I then drove all the way to Chorley and back in this image supplied, rather excessively gorgeous BMW 7 Series, leather seats, massage seats, sunroof. I'm pretty sure if you put coffee beans in the glove compartment, it asks you if you want a latte or a cappuccino. But it was, I mean, like, I was mostly just concerned because it's such a valuable car that I was going to scrape it against something and have to hand over my life savings to replace, you know, I don't know, some little thing somewhere. But I didn't scrape it, and it was actually rather strange and bizarre to be cruising down the M6 going, oh, I guess I'll overtake those guys, and just like very gently tap the accelerator and like I was just so exhausted coming back. I got back to London at 3:30 in the morning. Um, so like all the way back, it was like windows open, rock music on blast, stopping at every services to like throw more caffeine into the system. Like the fact that I didn't end up in some sort of motorway collision involving falling asleep at the wheel is thanks to a lot of very much focused efforts not to do so. Um, but I didn't want to skip the Chorley gig because it's a lovely gig. I love it up there. If you get the chance to go to Chorley Theatre, do. There's so many great shows on there, and the wonderful Estelle who works there, and some of her colleagues, volunteers really, so they're not colleagues, what the word is, co-volunteers, have put together this amazing map of Chorley, and you can do like a 1 hour walking tour, and it shows you where all the historic cinemas and theatres used to be. There used to be a Chorley Opera House, and I had no idea that, you know, it was big enough to support that much live entertainment, but evidently it was, slash, you know, one day will be again when we all get off our phones and start going out and supporting live entertainment. So if you get the chance, please go and get this map and take the walk. I wish I'd had the time to do it, but I didn't. All I had time to do was introduce Sally Ann Haywood and jump in my cruising machine and zing back to London as fast as I possibly could so that I could go and do television this morning. But it's great to be back, you know, doing a proper debate about something that I think is genuinely very important, and all that kind of stuff. And I am so going to go and sleep very shortly. But yeah, this is the sort of extra bonus behind the scenes content that you get from the Slippers on the Table videos, and those are usually for sponsors only. So if you'd like to be a part of that, as I say, like literally $1 a month, and if you'd like to know what's going on as well generally and hear about gigs like when I'm in Chorley and stuff, then the very best way to do that is to be on my mailing list. Just send me your email via any medium you like. There's a place you can input it on my website, but you can just send it to me on any social media and I'll just whack you on the mailing list. And people always ask when I'm on the telly, and the answer is dress and necklace from Kmart in Sydney in Australia when I got there. And Nick, who those of you who watch Slippers will be familiar with Nick, and those of you who've seen Humanity's Last Hope, the story about my glasses, that Nick said he was taking me out for dinner in a fancy like members place, and it was formal dress, and so I took like $30 to Kmart, and this was the formal dress that I achieved, and I thought it was worth another run out on the telly before the, I assume, polyester fibres start to bubble or catch fire in the sun or something. But thank you for your kind queries, and yeah, see you next week. Increasingly, the mainstream media is terrible at informing the public of what is really going on. I'm only able to make these videos because people are generous enough to sponsor me making them, and if you're able to be a part of that, I would hugely appreciate it. It can cost as little as $1 a month, and you'll get loads of fun bonus content and lots of extras from me and my undying gratitude. I also massively appreciate it if you're able to like, share these videos and let people out there know what's going on.